welcome back to our channel. So in this video you guys are going to see the new installation, what we did with the new ceiling studs, and then also adding new cripples to the front window. So there's not too much to go over as far as installation, but just to reiterate, we do live where it is hot year round. We do have, like, your winter months. However, it's not as cold as it would be northeast, where your winters would be, 4 or 5 months long. So with that, that is why we do not put the paper side of the insulation out. I do like it that way, just, because it's less messy. However, because of where we live, we do have to put the fiberglass side up. And just to let you know, if you don't know already, insulation that is not cotton, don't think that that is cotton and it's soft and it's, you could touch it all day and all of that. I had to learn that the hard way. That is fiberglass. So after I was done with all of the insulation, I have to tell you, it was like little knives cutting me everywhere, because it was in my hair, my skin, my clothes, everything. So, and that is probably one of my tips for you guys if you are to do your own insulation in the future. Wear something that is not cotton, and maybe put some kind of plastic on yourself, maybe, a poncho or something, just so that all that fiberglass does not stick to you, because it is not very pleasant to have that on your skin. So with that said, that is my one of my little tips there as far as doing your own insulation. So there's not much that I have to go over as far as the insulation. It was pretty easy, especially with, the walls. The ceiling was, of course, a different beast, but the ceilings were pretty, I'm sorry, the walls were pretty easy. It was straightforward. One sheet, I would say, I think this was like a 10-foot sheet, if I'm right, maybe 10, maybe 12. So it was from floor to ceiling. And then the studs that we did put in for the walls, my husband did measure them perfectly so that the insulation would stay nice and snug. So, that was an easy process as far as insulating the walls there. I did watch a little video on YouTube, and I, for the life of me, cannot even remember where that was, so I can't even show you guys the link. However, he went thoroughly through the whole installation process, and I have to say, one of the tips that I did get from him was about the whole wiring. Just making sure that your wires are not exposed, especially when you're starting to put drywall on. You don't want to accidentally nail, or screw in anything that's going to go into those wires that you have behind for your outlets. The last thing you want to do is start a fire behind your wall there. So in this frame here, you're just seeing him, my husband, actually cutting the new studs for the ceiling. And you could see there's a little bit of an angle there. And that is because we are putting that side by side with the old studs, the old ceiling studs. We did not want to take them out, just like when we did the wall, the floors, and the walls. We did not take any of the old ones out. Okay, so the whole point is for us to keep the old ones in, as a guide and just extra support, and then to have the new studs be what we are, nailing or screwing, sorry, our sheetrock to. So we did have to cut this in an angle, And that is because, and you'll see that in the next couple frames here, is because we had to make sure that it was going to fit from left to right up in the ceiling, and that it was nice and snug. Because if we had, a straight 2x4, it was not going to fit where that roof was. So we did have to cut it a little bit in an angle there so that it could fit really nice. So all we're doing is just putting it up there in the ceiling right next to the old one. And then we are going to either nail or screw. My husband did do both just to make sure that it was nice and secure. And just like I said, we're doing that just to make sure that the sheetrock can stay up on the ceiling and that it's not going to fall, and it has a nice sturdy, you know, a piece of wood that it can stick onto or hold onto. So this part was pretty straightforward. He did his cuts ahead of time. So he did all of his cuts. He made sure he had enough. We did get a lot of lumber in the beginning of our renovation. So, and I'm going to show you guys this too in a couple of frames where because it was sitting outside, we couldn't put it inside. There was just no room. So because we had to put it outside, a couple of the pieces did bow. So we had to figure out how we were going to get that to nail and screw in properly with it bowing that way. And you can see here, we just worked from day to night doing this. I did say in a previous video that I wanted to get this done by Thanksgiving. However, that did not happen. So my next goal was actually what I wanted to do in the beginning, was to get this done by Christmas. I am very hopeful that we can get this done by Christmas. So fingers crossed. But it's coming along. So I'm almost 80% sure we can get this done by Christmas. So yeah, so like I said, we're just putting them in, making sure that they fit. He did have to a couple of times, take a little bit off because they were too long. They couldn't fit, so he had to cut them a little bit more. That does happen, while you're doing renovation. Like I told you guys before, measurements, they're never going to be the same because sometimes the walls aren't even, sometimes the floors aren't even, and sometimes the studs aren't even. So you're going to have to, compromise a little bit with what you thought you were going to do. Okay, so here is what I was talking about where it started bowing because the wood was left outside for a while. So he just, put his clamps on, and we left that overnight. So that was the process that we did for those pieces that were bowing. Just put your clamps on, leave it overnight, and then when you're nailing and screwing, I would say keep those clamps on, and then when you've nailed where you needed to nail, then take those clamps off. All right, so this was, I think, like 2-3 days later. So after we had screwed all of our new studs in for the ceiling, we were ready to insulate the ceiling. My little tip here with doing the ceiling, and the first two did not go very well, and that was because I had tried to put a whole 10-foot sheet up in the ceiling on my own, which is not very easy because once you're pushing in one side, the other side would fall. So my little tip for you guys is, if you're going to do the ceiling, cut your pieces. I would say cut half of that sheet and do it in pieces. It is better to do it that way, and you don't have to hurt your arms, which was starting to happen with me because I was trying to do those whole sheets and then my arms were hurting. And then I was like, well, it has to be better than this. So that's when I realized, okay, let me cut the sheet in half and then just do it piece by piece, which worked out a lot better. Okay, so in this frame, you guys are seeing my husband put in the new cripples for the front windows. When we first started to do the whole new frame and studs and all of that, this was where we first started. However, we didn't put any cripples in. We wanted to make sure that what we were doing was correct before moving on. So we just kind of never got back to it. But because we're almost done, we decided to go ahead and move everything out of the way and add these cripples so we can finally insulate the front. So if you guys aren't familiar with that whole process of adding cripples and stuff and the importance of adding it, this is, if you have any windows, big windows or small windows, it doesn't matter. You do want cripples on the top and the bottom of your windows. And this is for support. Anytime you have windows like that, you want to make sure that you have support at the top and the bottom. And then he also, like I said, he measured it perfectly so that I could put the insulation in inside, and it's nice and snug. And you can see here when I'm putting the insulation, I'm not measuring. I'm literally just stuffing it in there and then just cutting it with a blade. That process was so much easier. He asked me why I didn't measure it, and I was like, I think that's a waste of time to actually try to measure it, even though it's the same measurements across. I just thought it was a better process for me to just put it against where I need to put it against and then just cut it. And you could see there's small pieces there, and as long as it's insulated, honestly, it doesn't matter how many pieces you need to fit in there. And I did that, multiple times throughout the whole house. So, and I have to say, like, I like the insulation that we have. The old insulation, I mean, it was 1966, so that old insulation really needed to go. Not only was it old, but it was so thin. And I kind of like doing this whole process. I can't believe how flimsy the materials are that they've used to make trailers. So I'm so happy that, like, with the whole tiny home, mobile home movement, with that being, what people are doing now, it's nice to see on YouTube that people are actually taking this on and then making their homes sturdy and, something to like last for years, and not something so whimsy that it could just like literally like fall apart. So that's one of the things why I decided to buy a mobile home and take this task on, because I did see people on YouTube doing it and I thought, hey, I could do it too. So yeah, and I'm really happy that we did do it. So I'm just like here finishing up all of the insulation, and then here's the bottom. We added cripples to the bottom, and we are insulating the bottoms. And it was so nice to actually, get all of this in and kind of stand back and watch and see what we've accomplished like so far with this living room and kitchen. And I'll be honest, this was like the one thing that made me really nervous, was taking this whole room on, especially with the floors and the new ceiling and new walls. It's definitely a learning experience. It was really exciting to kind of get all the insulation in and then, see the room and see what it can be and how bright it looked just with the insulation. It was really exciting for us, and I'm glad you guys, have joined us and, taken on this ride with us as well. We enjoy, doing these videos. We have enjoyed doing the renovation in general too. It is hard work, but once you see what you've done and where you've come from when you first started, it's like really amazing to like see that transformation. And I really, can't wait till it's all done and I can actually show you guys, the end result of all of our hard work. But yeah, I mean, this is my husband just putting in the last few sheets of insulation. Like I said, it looked good just to see this. So I'm really excited for our next video, which is going to be drywalling. That has always been a thing where I really grasp what we've done. So I can't wait for you guys to see that. But thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you guys in the next video. If you have any comments or questions, please put them down below. And, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.